This week on ANN, at-risk children in Brazil benefit from Adventist education.
Kayaking for a good cause in the United Kingdom.
And the world's third largest religious group might not be what you expect.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, education continues to lag behind rapid economic growth in Brazil, leaving many children vulnerable to dropping out of school. Now, this Adventist church is helping many of these at-risk students work toward a brighter future. Novo Tempo Media Center has this report.
In 2007, in the Rio Sena borough, a suburb of the city of Salvador, Brazil, the Center for the Incentive of Childhood Development was started. Commonly known as the Cigenho, the project intends to change the world by changing the life of each individual. Currently, the city of Salvador makes use of 2 community centers to host the project's activities.
Cigenho's objective is to provide a safer alternative for kids who live in areas of social risk. We shelter them from social risk by providing some education.
Literacy, musical and computer instruction, social assistance, and vocational guidance are some of the many tools used in caring for the children. About 140 kids benefit from the Cigenho project. Here, besides the material benefits, they receive spiritual guidance based on Christian principles.
We stay with the kids from 7 in the morning until 5 p.m. They only leave us when they turn 18 and are included in the workforce. The first class to join the workforce did so in 2010 with a telemarketing course for those kids who graduated from high school.
And the children's guardians celebrate this project's existence.
This is a very important project to my life and my son's life. He has been part of this project since he was 3 years old. He's a very shy boy, and through this project, he has improved a lot.
Adventist humanitarians in China say a significant grant from the Hong Kong government positions the Adventist Development and Relief Agency as a key provider of emergency relief in the region. The 1 million Hong Kong dollar grant helped provide critical support to more than 5,000 families in the Philippines in the wake of recent typhoons. The storms flooded homes and businesses, affecting more than 4 million people in the Southeast Asian country. ADRA China has worked in the region for nearly 2 decades.
Local officials in the U.S. state of Connecticut have asked Adventist Community Services to manage donations for survivors of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. Residents of Newtown continue to deal with the loss of classmates and colleagues after a gunman killed 20 children and 6 adults in December. Hundreds of thousands of people worldwide have responded with an outpouring of support in the form of stuffed animals, toys, and school supplies. ACS volunteers say they'll sort the donations and pack gift boxes for each child affected by the tragedy.
A group of Adventists in the United Kingdom with a taste for adventure are commemorating 100 years of church humanitarian work with a unique charity fundraiser. They're setting out to kayak 100 miles of the River Wye in one day. The trip normally takes twice as long. And they won't just be battling time. The January trip will bring cold temperatures and limited daylight. But participants say it's all for a good cause. Funds will go toward Adventist Development and Relief Agency work in Burkina Faso. The West African country faces a dramatic shortage of water, making life difficult for women and children. Some of them have to walk up to 10 miles to collect water. Among the kayakers are Victor Hulbert, Communication Director for the Church in the United Kingdom and Ireland, and John Surridge, President for the Church in Wales.
The number of people who no longer identify with any religion is growing at a rapid pace. In fact, a new study by the Pew Research Center reports that 20% of the U.S. public now say they're religiously unaffiliated, and that number increases for adults under 30. Worldwide, the unaffiliated are the 3rd largest religious group, behind Christians and Muslims. Adventist leaders say this group poses unique challenges for evangelism. Earlier today, I sat down with Gary Krause to find out how the church is impacting this demographic. Hi, Gary. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
First question for you. Does being religiously unaffiliated usually indicate a lack of spirituality?
No, there's no correlation. In fact, some studies suggest the exact opposite, that a lot of people who are very spiritually inclined, they don't want to categorize themselves within any specific organization or tradition. And so these are people who are still interested in spirituality, but it's kind of like going into a kitchen to conjure up a recipe. They add a little bit of Eastern mysticism, a few of Christ's teaching, maybe a dash of Adventism, and they design their own religion. And we're seeing increasingly, particularly among young people, that there's on any spectrum, I don't care whether it's Rotary or whether it's Boy Scouts, people are reluctant to join any club or organization.
Now, this is something that this study showed, in fact, that some of these people that are religiously unaffiliated are leery of organized religion. Is this something that the church can address?
Yeah, and we have to be very careful how we address it, because some people will say, well, we need to be more aggressive, we need to rouse the troops to go out there, claim them, bring them back within the four walls of the church. But I'd suggest that we need a more humble approach, that we need to say, well, what is there about what we're doing that has over-institutionalized religion? Have we emphasized rules and beliefs at the expense of spirituality? And so we need to be prayerfully considering how can we connect with these people, listen to them, learn from them, and don't expect that they're going to come to us. Don't expect that we can come up with some magic formula that's going to attract them to us. We need to follow Christ's example and go to them.
Now, the Adventist Church has various study centers that reach out to various religious groups. Is there a study center that can reach out to these people that are not religiously affiliated?
Yeah, we have many global mission study centers, mainly looking at ways we can build bridges of understanding with people from other religious systems. But the specific center that focuses on this sort of area is the Center for Secular and Postmodern Studies. And you can find out more by going to the Adventist Mission website.
Thank you very much, Gary. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
Coming up, a magazine dedicated to reaching government leaders and lawyers with a message of religious liberty.
I would describe The Great Controversy as the most insightful book ever written to explain what is happening on this world and the events at the end of time. There's so many voices today that are calling people's attention, and the book Great Controversy narrows it down to a very succinct, clear outline of what the essence of the issues are for today.
Christ said it came down to a simple thing: love God with all you got and love your neighbor as yourself. That was the prayer of Christ, and I think that's got to be the message that we highlight. When he was in his last hours with his disciples, he said, Father, my one prayer is that they'll be one, like you and I are one. And I think about the denominations, I think about the religions, and I'm like, no, it's not about all of those differences. In fact, that's the thing that I think has changed so much for me, is focusing on what I share in common. It's the beginning of every deep and meaningful relationship. And if the first thing I can share is my passion for the teachings and the life of Christ, and that I have a desire to be in your corner, that's the kind of place and community, world community, that I get excited about.
Praying together with people, uniting with God, seeking Him as one, there's nothing like it. And I just want you to imagine with me over thousands of churches coming together, praying, thousands of people, maybe even over 1 million. What is God going to do? I don't know, but I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be there, and I hope you'll be praying with me.
Welcome back. Founded more than 100 years ago, Liberty Magazine is published by the Adventist Church's Department of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty. This week, editor Lincoln Steed has a preview of the current issue.
Liberty Magazine is a magazine that's directed at government leaders, thought leaders, lawyers, community leaders, it's directed to them, projecting religious liberty. Now, religious liberty is a difficult topic for some. You can come at it so many different ways: constitutional, historic, and of course from a religious, theological point of view. We do that. The January-February issue of Liberty magazine is a little bit different because we're addressing the issue of what next. And on the cover we've got a powerful picture of people looking up into the skies, and as the editorial said, many people thought the world would end last December. Of course it didn't, although after the economic collapse people still think that. But what we want them to know in Liberty magazine, of course, we are free in Christ, we are free living in a land of the free, but as we look to the future, there has to be some hope in the appearance of Jesus Christ and the Christian's hope of a new world.
You can read Liberty Magazine articles online at libertymagazine.org.
A new mobile clinic is bringing healthcare to remote communities in Brazil. Matt Herzl has more on this month's feature from the Adventist Development and Relief Agency.
Healthcare is a serious issue in the many isolated communities dotting the banks of the Amazon River in Brazil. For some, it takes a 27-hour canoe trip just to reach the nearest medical services. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, is meeting these needs with a new program called Luzero, or Lightbearer in Portuguese. The program uses a small fleet of powerful motorboats to deliver medical care and emergency transportation services to the region. An ADRA-sponsored nurse is stationed near this village to provide immediate care.
A piranha mordeu meu dedo, eu fui lá levar pra ela, lá fez curativo bem umas 2 vezes. Deu carão ainda porque eu não fui logo, né, no mesmo dia, né? Que aí ela costurava, né?
The nurse travels up and down the river, providing basic health evaluations, dealing with common ailments like diarrhea, and treating injuries.
E mandar essa enfermeira para ir, né? Que é muito bom ela tá aí também. E agradecer eles por causa disso, né? E pra cá tá, que nem ela tá aí, né? Tá muito bom para nós. A pessoa precisa de um remédio, vai lá com ela, tem, né? De agradecer eles por causa disso.
ADRA is changing lives by addressing the basic needs of people. Join us as we show the world the simplest expression of God's nature, His love.
Now let's turn to Megan Bronner for this week's Adventist social media highlights.
Thanks for joining us today, Brandon.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Vimeo page. Why did we choose Vimeo?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons is we really like the cleaner look. There's no advertisements that pop up after your videos are done, and it's really focused on the content of the video.
So tell us a little bit about what kind of videos people can find on the page.
Well, there's a variety of videos. There's the Revival and Reformation Initiative, which we have as an ongoing project. There's also timely projects like the Togo, the release of the prisoners, 10 Days of Prayer, and Global Youth Day, different things that are coming up, and we're giving them recent videos, hopefully once a week, sometimes even once a day, to give our audience new media.
So besides sharing links and embedding the videos, how can people also share the videos?
Well, there's a nice download option right on the front page of each video. You can right-click on that download option, save link as, and you can get the full HD version right on your desktop to show your friends or to share at your churches.
Thanks for telling us about that, Brandon.
Thanks for having me.
Relying on rental car companies to document vehicle condition can leave you responsible for damage that's not your fault. As Karina Franca says, your cell phone camera can help you avoid these unfair claims.
We have noticed an increase in auto claims by rental car companies recently. Such claims typically involve minor damage to the vehicle. When an unusual number of claims start coming in, it triggers some red flags. There are a few simple things you can do to discourage questionable claims. The basic principle is to have a documentation about the condition of the car from when you picked it up and when you drop it off. Usually the rental company provides a walk-around form. Fill it out completely and make note of pre-existing damage. Sometimes the rental company representative will say, "Don't worry about it." In those situations, it's appropriate to insist that the damage be documented. Always try to get a copy of the form. If the rental company does not have a form, use your smartphone to quickly take photos of the front, back, and sides of the car. Email them to yourself as documentation. Always get the name of the person assisting you at the desk and the person assisting you with the walk-around. Be sure to do a walk-around when you drop off the car. Again, if the company doesn't provide a form for your documentation, you can take photos with your smartphone. Having all the documentation from the time you pick up the car until you drop it off can make all the difference when a rental company tries to file a claim that you're not responsible for.
Could living in the dormitory affect your grades? On this week's education feature, Lisa Beardsley-Hardy says where you live during college can have some surprising effects on academic performance.
There are very good academic reasons why you should consider living in the dormitory. There's research that shows that students who live in a dormitory do better academically, and there are a lot of reasons for it. One study shows that living in a dormitory is correlated with a higher GPA from 20% to a full grade level higher. Living in a dormitory may cost more, but it removes distractions. It also enables you to take advantage of the environment, of study groups, of the library, of proximity to others who are studying. You don't have to worry about what's happening other places, but you're able to focus on your studies. It's also a safe and secure place to be. Some research shows that the academic performance is only marginally better if you live at home. That is, it's still marginally better by living in the dormitory. But if you can live at home, right next to the college campus, that's great too. There won't be many disadvantages. Besides living in the dormitory, there are some students who want to live in the community. And in fact, this is not advisable if you're serious about your studies. Living in the community means that you have to care for things that you wouldn't be having to worry about when you're in the dormitory. So I encourage students who are serious about their studies, even if you're a senior, live in the dormitory.
Still ahead on A&N, tech resolutions to make for the new year.
But up next, a preview of this week's Bible study lesson.
Revival is the renewal of the spiritual energies of the soul. It has to do with a new commitment to Jesus every day. It leads us to a deeper experience in prayer. It leads us to the diligent study of God's Word and a life of service and Christian witness.
I was reading The Great Hope, and this phrase caught my attention. Their only safe course was to cherish the light which they had already received of God, hold fast to His promises, and continue to search the Scriptures, and patiently wait and watch to receive further light. This phrase gives me so much hope because I know that Jesus is coming so soon. I know it seems like it's taking a while, but I just hold on to His promises and I cling fast to them. In Ezekiel 12, the Lord says that He will not prolong His words any longer, but He will do what He says. I have so much faith and I just want to hold on to it and for it not to be shaken because I know the Lord will do what He says.
All around the world, Seventh-day Adventists are reading a chapter of the Bible per day. We call it Revived by His Word. With the new free iPhone and iPad apps, you can join in and read the daily chapter on your device, highlight verses and share them with your friends via email and Twitter, and follow the daily feeds. And you can do this in English, Spanish, or Portuguese. Get your free Revived by His Word app now.
Welcome back. This week's Bible study lesson explores why God rested after 6 days of creation. Jonathan Kuntaraf has a preview.
We believe in the Bible. We believe in creation. The Bible shows that creation was completed in 6 literal days. The first 3 days, the world was formed. In the second 3 days, the world was filled. How was the world filled? The universe was filled on the 4th day when the sun, moon, and stars were created. On the 5th day, air and water animals were created. On the 6th day, the land animals, including mankind, were created. And it was very good. The Bible says God rested on the 7th day. Why did He make a 7-day time cycle that we call a week? It is because He wants us to have a special time for communion between God and humanity. The Sabbath is the reminder of our relationship with God.
You can download or order the current edition of the Church's Bible Study Guide online at absg.adventist.org. We'll bring you a preview of all the upcoming lessons here on ANN in the coming weeks.
Adventist young people are setting aside one Sabbath next year for Global Youth Day. The March 16 event will see 8 million Adventist youth participate in community service worldwide.
An army of youth, mobilized on the streets of the world, united in service, and driven by His command, go and do likewise. What would it look like? You. Join 8 million youth around the world as they leave the building to be the church. We can make a difference, one act of kindness at a time. Today, you are the sermon.
With the beginning of a new year, many people are pledging to get healthier or more organized. As John Beckett says on this week's Tech Corner, your computer can also benefit from a few resolutions.
The beginning of a new year offers a great excuse to reflect on and improve your digital situation. I suggest looking at 3 areas. The first area has to do with backups. Even if you're already doing backups, check to make sure all of the important areas of your computer are backed up. Test to see whether you can recover a document or a picture from a recent backup set. If you aren't already doing backups, it's time to think about starting. You can use an online service like CrashPlan or Carbonite, or opt for an external drive. If you do opt for the external drive, you might want to occasionally copy it to another drive that's stored somewhere other than your computer. The next area has to do with security. It's a great time to change passwords on your email accounts and make them a phrase with an odd punctuation mark or symbols so that they're harder to guess. At a minimum, I suggest using a unique password for your email account and computer. That way, a website hack will not reveal your email password, allowing easy access to the other sites you may use. You may also want to think about encrypting your laptop's hard drive. The final area to think about is continuity. Have you left any help for someone, maybe a relative or a coworker, who may need access to some of your digital life if you're no longer around? Maybe you volunteer to manage a website for your church or offer other techie help. If so, maybe it's time to add someone other than you who can help out if you're not available. I hope your new year will be a great one, but if something goes bad, maybe these tips will help save you or someone else a big headache cleaning up.
Adventist supporting ministry, It Is Written, is planning a year packed with evangelism outreach. John Bradshaw has details this week.
I'm John Bradshaw from It Is Written. 2013 is going to be a big year for It Is Written in the area of evangelism. This year we have evangelistic series in Mexico, Costa Rica, Prague in the Czech Republic, New York City, Lisbon, Portugal, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Escrito Está has meetings in Peru and Bolivia and across the United States and Mexico City. It's a big year. January of this year, we are in southern Mexico, in Quintana Roo state. We have 5 series of meetings taking place in a citywide evangelistic event. In February, we'll be across the country of Costa Rica. 15 series taking place, 11 of them run or held or conducted by It Is Written speakers. Already God is working miracles in Costa Rica. As a group of young people, we're going door to door, sharing Bibles, handing them out in the community. A child in one home said, "Mommy, Daddy, who's that big man standing behind those people?" Well, nobody thought anything of it. He said it again. "Who's that big man? He's shining." Well, it happens in angel stories, and it happens today too, right now in Costa Rica, in preparation for the nationwide evangelism event taking place in February. January in Mexico, February in Costa Rica, all year long, a big year for evangelism at It Is Written. Thank you for praying that God will do a great work.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, Adventist missionaries to Morocco bring the Church's message deeper into the continent of Africa.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History, a week of firsts and lasts. On January 14 in 1877, Isaac Van Horn organized a church of 35 members at Salem, the first Adventist church established in the state of Oregon. Also on January 14, but in 1960, Jean Kempf and his wife, natives of France who had been missionaries in Morocco, relocated to the city of Bangui, capital of the Central African Republic. Kempf established a mission headquarters, the first Adventist school, and translated Adventist literature into the local Sango language for the first time. And he conducted the first Adventist baptism in the Central African Republic in March 1963. On January 15, 1886, William Healy began the first evangelistic campaign in the Hawaiian Islands in the city of Honolulu. Thanks partly to the efforts of Abram LaRue and L.A. Scott, who had canvassed the city in previous years, Healy's efforts were to yield 9 baptisms. The next day, January 16, but in 1899, Goodloe Harper Bell died. Born in 1832, Bell was a first-generation Adventist who had founded Battle Creek College, the forerunner to Andrews University. And on the same day, exactly 1 year later in 1900, Sarepta Miranda Irish Henry died. Henry was a prolific activist and author, was a licensed minister, and is remembered as a pioneer of ministry by women. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, follow us on Twitter. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide and join in our weekly social media conversations. Just search for Adventist News on twitter.com.
Our good news for this week comes from 2 Corinthians. The passage says, "Therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.